Because for me, as somebody who is multiracial, who is black and white, right? For somebody who does have like a looser curl pattern and hair texture, right? I understand that y'all being a part of like talking to other people who are in that similar social location as me, we're slacking. Okay? We sit here and we have less forms of oppression or less intensified forms of anti-blackness when it comes to the ways that our positionalities are able to navigate different social, like different experiences, different environments or social locations. I get drawn into these problems for what you keep. Hey y'all, thank you all so much for tuning into this week's episode of Talk to Not At, hosted by me, Abby, and produced by the Debate Boutique Network. Now, I'm so excited y'all tuned in this week because y'all, we have a special treat. Today, we are having a guest co-host on the show today to help us engage in some amazing conversation and add some perspective to a much-needed intercommunal issue. So before we get into introducing our co-host today, let's talk about what it is that we are talking about today. So I'm not sure how many of you all are familiar with the YouTuber and beauty influencer, Briana Monique. But for those who aren't, baby, Briana Monique came in and really showed some problems that we are having when it comes to the conversation of colorism and texturism. Now, Briana Monique was sitting here doing an episode where she was promoting a hair product that was created by a black woman. It's a black-owned business. She's promoting this product, and as she's talking about it in her episode, she starts making comments about how she's blessed to have good hair, right? She starts to engage in these derogatory remarks, talking about how she don't got the nap, and the ignorance, the perpetuation of intercommunal anti-blackness, right, that she was giving during this episode was like, whoa, sis, no. You need to do better. You need to go and educate yourself because colorism is not cute, okay? Texturism is not cute. I get it. You got money. I get it. You got fans. But you have no pass. You have no right to sit here just because you are black to then perpetuate colorism and texturism, because there's multiple conversations, multiple experiences that are a part of the larger conversation of anti-blackness. There's tangents to the umbrella of anti-blackness. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Because for me, as somebody who is multiracial, who is black and white, right? For somebody who does have like a looser curl pattern and hair texture, right? I understand that y'all, being a part of like talking to other people who are in that similar social location as me, we're slacking, okay? We sit here and we have less forms of oppression or less intensified forms of anti-blackness when it comes to the ways that our positionalities are able to navigate different social, like different experiences, different environments or social locations, because of having lighter skin, because of having a certain texture pattern to your hair, and because of those privileges that occupy or are toned to our social location. That means we are also just as capable as perpetuating forms of anti-blackness via colorism and texturism. So by putting down darker skinned black women, or putting down black women that have like more coarse hair textures and patterns than us, that's just ignorant. That's violent. It's problematic. And it's not just about people having sensitive feelings, because these problems, these structures are tied to material consequences. First of all, emotional and psychological violence is still physical violence. But to take it a step further, when it comes to just natural like ability to navigate certain spaces, colorism makes it so for people who are black women, who are lighter skinned, who have a softer curl pattern or looser curl pattern, it's easier for us to get jobs. It's easier for us to present ourselves or communicate ourselves in certain environments that are white dominated spaces. It's easier for us to get certain jobs when it comes to modeling, right? When it comes to the work environment, it's easier for us to put our hair in a professional hairstyle because we don't recognize natural hair patterns as being something that is professional. And also, it's easy as hell for us to boycott movements, because when we think of the natural hair movement, we often now see images of women with hair textures more like mine plastered on all the covers and the bottles of all these products. Yet the reality is the movement wasn't made for us, okay? Yet we still boycotted it, because colorism and texturism have material impact. And when we don't use our social location to make space for Black women who face the most intensified forms of that violence, then all we're doing is putting ourselves on a pedestal and stepping on top of our sisters, okay? We're holding other Black women down so that way we can lift ourselves up. And that's exactly what Briana Monique did. She literally used a product made by a Black woman for natural hair to uplift herself on her YouTube show, and then simultaneously put other Black women down. No, no. The ignorance, again, the problematic language and discourse, and the violence that was perpetuated, that's something that we need to talk about. Because colorism, it's not cute, baby. Texturism is not cute, baby. So on that note, I'm gonna kind of let the video explain for itself what happened. And then we can get into our amazing conversation again with our co-host on the show. But take a second, y'all. Give yourself the space to think about, what's my relationship to colorism? Am I familiar with what even is colorism? And I kind of thought colorism and texturism were the same thing. Are they the same thing? Are they not the same thing? Take a second, think about how you relate to the topic. Think about maybe areas that you have some questions or some self-learning to do. And watch this clip so that way we can know what exactly happened, to know what it is that we're talking about. But on that note, y'all, take a moment and breathe.
I was blessed with my texture and type of hair. My mom actually really has African American hair. Don't take this the wrong way, sis. My mama got naps, okay? And she be struggling trying to find the right products for her hair because she is natural. She's always like, you're just so lucky. Don't be complaining about your hair. I don't be complaining about my hair because I don't do much to it. But I will say I am super blessed when it comes to my hair texture, because I've been seeing my mama do her hair, and oh my gosh, if I was her, I would have done the same thing and cut it all off. But she'd be wanting to cut it all off again after already being natural. She's like, it's just too much. And I'm just like, I don't know, mommy, like I don't know how.
Yeah, first of all, let me say, I am not the one to sit around and be played. So prove yourself to me.
All right, y'all. Okay, I hope we all had a moment to breathe, think about our own relationship to the conversation we're having today, because colorism and texturism for Black women is something that has a very diverse conversation, but we need to talk about it, because unfortunately, especially again, y'all, from the position of somebody who is lighter skinned, who is like mixed identity, I be looking at some people who are other representations of the mixed community at times, lighter skinned community, and I'm like, y'all, what are we doing? Like, this ain't it. This is not okay. We need to get it together, and we need to educate ourselves better on the conversation of colorism and texturism, because anti-Blackness intensifies itself based on different positionalities and social locations we occupy. So I hope, again, we took that brief moment to really think about, okay, how do my own politics operate? Am I ever guilty of perpetuating those forms of oppression? Or am I somebody who, personally experiences some ways that colorism or texturism impact my own ways, to navigate the world? So I wanted to make sure, we took a second uploaded ourselves into the conversation, but also I really hope we watch that clip, y'all, because we are ready to talk about what Briana Monique was saying. Okay, now we know, in case we missed it, what she was talking about on that YouTube episode. And yeah, I think it's time that we get into it. So to help us dissect, what we had just seen, we have an amazing guest co-host today, Jazmine Pickens, who is not only the CEO and the founder, yes, Black Girl Magic all the way, of the Debate Boutique, but she's also my producer. So I'm so excited to welcome her onto the episode today. And yeah, Jasmine, thank you for joining us.
Hello. I had to, do my little breathe and sip too, but it said it's water. So I am so excited to be here. Got a lot of thoughts and opinions on what has been going on with Miss Briana Monique. But yeah, as Abby said, I am the owner of the Debate Boutique Network. But more importantly, I think just a Black woman, Black girl out here trying to create some really important conversations. And I think that Abby does a really great job of doing that. It's weird to be on this side of the camera, even though it's like a Zoom camera. So hey y'all, don't be nice, okay? Instead of doing all the editing, but we thought that for this episode, it would be really not only important, but I think just a not better conversation, but this should be a dialogue. There should be some kind of dialogue as part of the conversation of colorism, because as y'all can see, I decided to, let the curves come and the texture to really talk about texturism, colorism, the different experiences that Abby has that are different than mine on the spectrum of Blackness. So I hope that y'all enjoy this episode. We are super excited to really be getting into it. And I'm going to just plug it in here. If you ain't subscribe right now. Follow on Instagram, Talk to Not Ab Show. And follow Abby on Instagram at ab_baby. And yes, let's get into it.
Yes, okay. So now again that we all kind of saw a clip of, again, y'all, we just played a clip. There's a lot more to unpack in the conversation. There was an apology released by her. There has been a lot of dialogue within the community. So hopefully we can add some insight to some of the fuller conversation as we talk about it. But just to begin getting into it, Jasmine, how did you feel when you watched the episode? What was your first, reactions, your gut intuition? What was happening up here for you?
Yeah, so I'm a YouTube connoisseur. That's what I'm really big into. I love watching the lifestyle vloggers and in particular the Atlanta ones, because hopefully, knock on wood, that's where I'll be very, very soon. So I'm very up to date with when one of these kind of more prominent vloggers post. So I saw that Briana Monique, who I've never been subscribed to, but I've watched enough of her videos where her recommendations just pop up on my feed. I saw the video, the thumbnail pop up. I was like, all right, I'll save that and I'll get ready to watch it at some point. So I actually never watched the original her post video. I was introduced to want to watch it from the different Black women who then made commentary YouTube posts, which I think were excellent and needed and part of the conversation. If you haven't seen those, I Am Eloha is the one that specifically I am referencing, and is where we pulled that screen record from. So I started understanding what was happening from the screen grab from it, because, and this is where we can have an entire conversation about this, but I learned she deleted it from the original video, right? She took that snippet out, turned off her comment section, and so I'm I'm only viewing it from the criticism, right? Like, I'm only seeing the 2-minute clip that she does excise from the original. And in that 2 minutes, it's a disappointment. It's a mockery, I think. And we're all way too grown to be not educated on the things that we said, especially since Briana Monique, you know, her platform is built from Black women. And I'm sure like we'll talk about that when we get to like intramural conversations of like how this impacts and is perpetrated by Black folks in the community as well. But I just thought it was distasteful, especially promoting a Black-owned hair care company. Like, there's just so many nuances where I was just like, did you read the room? Because you clearly did, you edited it. So disappointing, lackluster, like too grown to be doing this kind of stuff, and problematic is how I felt.
Yeah, all of that and the above. And you know, that makes a good point too, because I realized, you know, when I was preparing for this episode, I was trying to find the original clip. And of course, the keywords I'm looking in is like Briana Monique's like episode, you know, anti-Blackness, colorism, texturism, you know, just trying to use keywords that I know that people would leave in the comments to maybe help pull up that video. And I couldn't find it. And I was like, I'm not about to sit here, girl, and scroll through all of your footage, already knowing that you're problematic, to find one episode that I know that I'm looking for. So I, again, like used, just how you had said, used other people's responses to her to get a fuller conversation about what was going on. But that even adds a whole new updated layer, like you're talking about. Because not only did you edit this once and you said, oh, this is fine, but do you really care about your politics? Because it sounds like you just care about your fame. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I thought this was gonna get me, you know, the likes, and it didn't. So let me just erase it.
Yeah. She was like, ooh,
right.
JK?
Right. Yes. Like, can we just take it out? No.
Yeah, I was like, we heard it.
You don't expose yourself? Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So on that note, I guess, right, we talked about how there have been responses and tons of different responses within the comment section itself. And I remember there's kind of like been 3 main types of positions that people are taking, right? Where they're kind of like, okay, this is problematic and you need to get your shit together, basically. Right. Then there's also been the response of like, okay, well, I don't really care. And then there's the response of people who are like biracial or multiracial Black women, and they may be, you know, lighter skin or like their skin colors vary. And they're like, how do I relate to this? Where do I fall in? Like, what do I do? Because I recognize that probably wasn't it, but I don't have all of like my personal understanding that, you know, you said we're grown. We probably should have at this point. So what was the kind of, I guess, position that you maybe related most to in the comments where you're like, okay, these are my interpretations of how you all are interpreting this video?
Right. The right one.
Yes.
I mean, I'm being funny, but no, I think I take the position that I could only take, right? So yeah, there was the position from the Black women, you know, non-multiracial, non-biracial, just like Black women who has 3A, 3B hair, you know, kinkier hair texture, walks in the room. No one's like, ooh, what ethnicity is she, right? And it's like, no, I walked in the room and I'm Black. Like, there's no, what is she exotified with? Nah, it is what it is. And so I receive her commentary from that perspective because it means that there is a part of my Blackness that she has deemed as non-conducive or workable, or as she said it, nappy, which I'm sorry, I have decided that if you do not have kinky, coily hair, I just don't think that like hashtag my naps or nappy hair is something that you can say, because you just don't, one, have that hair texture, but also two, that did not derive from a very positive space, right? Like when the word nappy was basically to describe Black folks' hair as like woolly, uncontrollable, messy, don't want to deal with it, not clean, because generally naps are like your hair is all knotted up and red, so it's like, I'm not really a fan of just like the words that were coming from her mouth, because it just represented Black women as insufficient or not enough. And the comment section and of course there were 3 different ones that I, track as you brought up, but the comment section from the Black woman from that perspective, who's like, this is not being sensitive, right? This is not like, like just take it as a pass and like Briana Monique do better. It's like, no, there are historical, societal implications of texturism and colorism that maybe Briana Monique is not affected by, in the sense of being judged. No one's judging you for your good hair, right? Or your skin complexion. In most spaces, you probably pass for something or do not have to navigate them as uncomfortably. So it's like, of course, you would then see a Black woman in the comment section who is upset about it as being overly sensitive, but that's only because you have never had to experience what having a certain hair texture, having a certain skin color, right, feels literally like through these societal and historical perspectives. So that's that is the take of like Black women that I was in the comment section, which, well, like I said, I think is the right one, especially given just like context. But there were other ones that,
right.
Not to judge them, because once again, like you said earlier, multifaceted kind of like Black experience, that it's not, their opinions don't matter, but it is, there's some work to be done.
Yes.
Is the thought process that I have for this.
Yep, I completely agree. And I guess like on some of the like multiracial, biracial comments as well, I think one of the problems that we personally have sometimes when it comes to the conversation is I'm like, y'all, there's 2 conversations we're having. Like texturism and colorism are 2 separate conversations that involve separate types of education that we need to discuss. Because yes, there's relationships between them, just like anti-Blackness shapes the larger conversation that we're having in general, right? There's definitely relationships, but there are people who occupy positions that may not necessarily seem like, oh, that's not really what I thought of, right? There could be somebody who has more coarse textured hair who is very, very light skinned, right? Especially when we have things like people who are albino and things like that, right? And I'm like, right. So there is a multitude of conversations that ways that you all could engage in the conversation. Like think about your own unique positionality, because for me, right, obviously, like I am, again, very light skinned. I have like freckles. Like I am not somebody who walks into a space and people are like, oh, you're Black, right? I often get that. I often have to discuss or explain my racial positionality. Right. But that means that there's certain representations about myself that I have the freedom to like present in different environments. Right. And that recognition of that privilege is something that I also recognize. Just because you're multiracial, that doesn't necessarily mean we have the same experiences. So sitting here and just being like, oh, well, how do I relate to the conversation? Girl, how do you relate to the conversation? Right. No one can tell you. And it's not the job of other Black women to tell you. Like, like you said, do better. Educate yourself. Yeah. Maybe you relate to one conversation and you experience something different from another conversation. Mm-hmm. But that was just my take on some of like I don't know what to do. Y'all, we kind of need to know what to do.
Yeah. And I think that's important. And that's why I think the 2 of us being on this episode was so important, right? Because there are mixed Black women who get it, right? And that means that you don't get a pass.
Right.
You know, like you don't get, oh, I didn't know. You didn't know that the sun, you know, comes out, or the sun rises at a certain time, the moon then, you know, exchanges its place. Like what? You forgot how to breathe.
Right.
Is how I hear those things. So that's why I think it's so important that, you know, you are speaking and how you interact with spaces, knowing that you experience it. I don't think that there's like a unity book, especially like if you are Black. I do not think that this is one of those, I cannot parse together how me, you know, having lighter features or having, you know, non-coily hair, how that could potentially benefit me in, you know, white dominated spaces, or how me, you know, glamorizing those parts of myself while defaming the characteristics that other Black women have is not charged and hurtful.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's very like powerful and just important for folks to see that just by being a mixed Black woman does not give you a pass to be ignorant and have to be taught by, you know, darker skinned, textured hair Black women to say, all right, like, let me walk you through why, you know, what you said was not okay. It's not our job. Yeah, I think I just wanted to throw that in there. That's why I think it's just so cool, important, and great that, you know, you are, to be quite honest, in terms of all of the YouTube conversations that are being had on Instagram, the more in-depth and non-lackluster response and analysis. So,
no, I'm really glad that we are doing this episode together, because again, there's things that I can talk about, stuff from education, stuff from relaying information from other people, but it's not my personal experience in a lot of ways. So there's limited insight I can have in the conversation. But even on that note, right, we're talking about coming from like a multiracial family or a biracial family. And that was what Briana Monique's apology was kind of founded upon, right? Her response of like, oh, my mom really like instilled this into me. And she even talks about it in the episode as well, but she kind of wanted to bring it back to that, to like shake off the blame. I was feeling like, you know, kind of shake off some of the blame from her. Was. Yeah, okay, that's what I was gonna ask. How do you feel about that apology though?
How did I feel about the apology? I mean, apology, I guess for folks who are not in debate, then that made no sense. So I'll say it this way. How are we defining apology? Like, did it meet the basic tenets of being one? My personal opinion, and I think one that Merriam-Webster dictionary, and whatever other dictionaries that I can't, Oxford dictionary, would disagree that met the core tenets of being one. Like you said, I thought that it shifted the blame and focus to her mother and not herself. If I'm coming from the perspective that you are grown and therefore you should be accountable for the 25, 26 years that you have been on this earth and have existed the way that you have and have Black friends. I see the folks who you like, you know, share posts on your stories with. You do, and I mean, and the other mixed Black women. There are two who have been very, very quiet about this, which is like neither here nor there, but are your faves. And I guess my faves too. I subscribe to them, so I'm not here to like, how could you? But it's just like to look at this in full depth. You shifted the blame, you weren't accountable. And honestly, I don't think that it's a written apology. I think that it is turn your camera on and say something. Another part to it that I thought was really weird, and like this is more kind of like the style of how she did it and less of like what she said, because I have thoughts there too. But like how she did it was she posted on her Instagram story, yes, y'all. Yeah. I'm telling y'all, I'm deep up in here in these vlogger streets. But she posted on her story with a little link, hey, I got something for y'all. Link, click on it to then be directed to her community post. like as though it was a gift or something highly anticipated. Like it didn't come across as I am acknowledging and taking very seriously the thing that I decided to do that was by no accident, right? Like it did not feel like it was coming from a well-intentioned place, but rather was a clickbait opportunity, right? To get people to her channel, to her page, right? To just see that she has done something and less of, who are you talking to, right? It doesn't seem as though, well, to be punny, it feels like she was talking at, right? And not talking to who she needed to be. And then in terms of like her actual apology, I mean, yeah, like it's great, or it's not great that your mother, you know, would say these things, but clearly, right, 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4. If your mom is telling you that you have better hair or that you should be, you know, appreciative of the hair that you do have, when you look at, you know, the Black women that are in your life that don't have that hair, right? That, and even that statement in itself comes from a place of lack, right? Like when you don't have the straighter, wavier hair, we're fine. Right? Like the coily textured coarse hair is beautiful. That's what Eloha said, you know, being cocky with your crown. So it's like the lack of awareness, the punting of blame onto her mother, and then the mom conversation into herself for just like how, yeah, this probably is something that you were, you know, raised with. You were raised with that kind of superiority to say, I have the good hair. I can wear my hair in this kind of ponytail. I can do, you know, all of this stuff. And that, I think, is where it's hurtful from a Black woman to another Black woman, right? Like not mixed Black woman, just like someone who looks like me, darker, looks like me with even a coarser hair texture, to be like, you really view yourself like that? Because for you to tell your daughter, your mixed race daughter, you know, that she should be grateful for the hair that she has been bestowed upon a father that is not present in your life, because she did say that, but I don't even know my white father, or my white father is not even part of the picture, yet you claim his hair, right? You claim that as being the thing that you were blessed with, but who are you raised by? You know what I mean? It's like, how do you look at your grandmother, your aunts, your uncles who have that hair texture? It's sad on all kinds of accounts, but I think it does speak to a larger kind of like community thing as well. For how Black folks participate in colorism, how it's internalized anti-Blackness. Just like a lot of stuff there. A lot of stuff is what I'll say.
Yeah, I completely everything agree with that. I guess like my summary is on that is like, she did not understand the assignment when it came to an apology. She did not understand the assignment.
Not at all.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, even on that, you're talking about, right, her family, her father, him actually like being absent in her life, which I, you know, wasn't even like thinking about the value and importance that adds to the conversation. So that's some amazing insight. It kind of talks about how there's like so many different experiences, right, when it comes to Blackness. And I guess pulling it back to maybe a more personal question is like, what's your personal, you know, you've talked a lot about, I guess, your personal experience and relationship to this conversation. But I guess, you know, just for yourself, how do you relate to the conversation? How's the conversation personally impacted you? I don't know if there's any thoughts that kind of came to your mind that you're like, yeah, this is like my moment to have a monologue and let y'all know, like, let's talk about this real quick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I am like, sorry, I'm like also doing, from a producer perspective, getting sideline media takes from this. Yeah, I think that the biggest or the personal conversation that this entire kind of vlog post and everything that has happened from it brings me back to is a very childhood perspective, right? And I think that this is something that every Black woman can relate to. And that is from the age of 10, I think it was either 9 or 10, I got my first perm, right? And I remember being so excited and happy about it because it meant that I didn't have to deal with my hair, right? Because my hair is thick, you comb it for 1 second and then it feels like you never combed it because it just does its own thing. That's like, for me, a younger version of myself, a non-grown version, a non-healed version of myself, had a very negative relationship to my more textured, coily hair. I did think it was a burden. I was wanting it to be straight. And I think that beyond just ease of doing my hair, I was excited for when I go in the pool, like this, I don't know how much I will put myself out here like that. But like going in the pool, and getting my hair wet and it comes out looking like straight and mermaidy, right? Because it's like, it's straight. It's like, ooh, like it's not gonna go straight to bush. It's gonna be more so this like really silky moment. And so there was a lot of just like internalized anti-Blackness or internalized whiteness and how I wanted my hair to be. I went to predominantly white schools for a long time because when I got my first perm, I was living in the South or North Carolina, right? So like for some people, they characterize that as like the South, for some they don't, whatever, but like the country, but like Southern white folks. And so it was a high need for me to blend in, to fit in, to want to be attractive to the white Jonathans and Grays and Timothys and Bens, that are at the school. And a part of that was my hair. I couldn't change my skin texture, right? I couldn't change the fact that I was Black, but I could change the texture of my hair, right? And fast forward to now, 7 years, 8 years later, I think, because like in 2018, I decided to like stop getting perms completely. I was like over it. One, because it was damaging my hair. Perms are not good for you. You're putting chemicals directly on your scalp, ladies and gentlemen. It is not a natural good thing to occur. But it produced like burn scars and bumps and things that I deal with today that I have to spend expensive dermatology bills for, right? To get my scalp back to being, it's in its healthy state. And looking back, like, why did I do all this? Or why was it so important for me to have good hair? And look at what the cost was, right? With the ways in which it actually causes damage and having to relearn having a healthier relationship to hair. And it's hard, right? Because we're not going to ignore the fact that a lot of like employers or just like social spaces deem like curly hair or like wearing your afro, wearing your locks, really having something that is not as manicured as not being professional, right? Like they say, oh, you gotta like tame that, straighten it, put a wig on, put a weave on, da-da-da-da. And so it's like constant messaging that our hair is not good. And so, I think that Briana, and being raised by Black women who my experience is not unique, right? Like this is probably a story that many Black women can relate to in terms of their relationships with going to school, wanting to fit in, getting these perms, deciding to go natural, but the decision to go natural being very hard because in terms of the workplace, in terms of what is literally portrayed as the natural curly movement or as being attractive is not what 4C, 4B, 4A hair looks like. So it's just, I think that a lot more could have been done by her, but it's more just so confusing because like the people you claim you love, which I'm sure you do, I'm not saying she doesn't love her mother or like her family, but for you to live in an isolated bubble to not know, and I guess what I'm saying, I don't think that she didn't know, right? That those comments affect a niece that she has, right? Or those comments affect a cousin. Those comments affect somebody in her family that does not look like her, but that looks like me, darker and more textured, right? So yeah, that's how like it was just distasteful because it brings it back to like shitting on Black women is really how I felt about that, and having no sensitivity to just the ongoing struggle that it is to have our hair, because it's political. It's not even almost. It's very political to choose to be natural, what is represented as natural, all of that stuff. So yeah, that's my little diatribe. Yeah.
Ooh, sorry. I have like a tickle, but worst timing ever.
I'll drink some water to it.
So you kind of talked about like education, personal education. So I guess my question is, what do we do next? What's up next after this? Sorry, my voice is like kind of skipping out, but as you talk, I'll take a second.
Okay. But like what comes next? I think that it has less to do with Brianna as it does with the Black women that were in the comment section. There is something that I guess I could say to Brianna, but like in the spirit of it is not Black women's role or job to educate grown, other grown Black women, mixed Black women on their Blackness. It's not our job. So in that vein, I'm not really gonna, here, Brianna, here's what you could do. But I will say, make the apology feel like it comes from your chest. Because right now, it feels like no apology has happened.
Yes.
You made a clickbait community post to make yourself look like a victim, or to make yourself look like you need more education. Then educate yourself and tell us how you educated yourself. Bring us, take us on a little bit of that journey instead of right after posting, pics of you in Dior. Like Black women are what allow for you to have that Dior money, and let's just call it what it is. So you might want to start talking to and respecting the platform that is built on the literal support of Black women who you just shat on. But that's just my opinion there. In terms of like the Black women comment section, I think then understanding from that is like we support these people, right? Like without our support, they do not have a income. They do not have a lifestyle. We put pressure, right, on them by a very impactful decision to either subscribe or to click the link in the description box or to, buy into the products that they are promoting. And so I think understand that it's power. And to diversify diversify who you are influenced by. If your YouTube, social media, like just in terms of people who politicians, anything, if it looks like it favors one demographic of individuals and it's not, fully well-rounded with, Black women, Black trans women, Black, BIPOC women, then like you're not doing the due diligent work, right, of having a full spectrum understanding of this thing we call Blackness, right? Start supporting. There are so many content creators who are doing the meaningful work, but also because of their literal sexual identity or their just like physical look being darker, having coarser hair, or, you know, just all of the things that deviate from the norm, they don't get support because the algorithm does not favor them. What can we do? We can seek them out. We can search, right? We can do that work, because if we are truly about supporting Black women, then we need to be truly about supporting Black women. And I think that's a very simple, pragmatic, get your Google searching on, get your YouTube searching on, because they are there. And they are doing the exact same, if not better, work than a lot of these like top bloggers who, and I laughed at this. Brianna has no character. She has no personality. I'm sorry. Cardboard box. Boring. Yeah. But is making all this money because y'all are bought into her lifestyle. You're bought into her ability to buy Chanel and Dior, and you like the bad bitch. So, okay, guess what? There are so many dark-skinned bad bitches who will make you laugh, who will make you cry, you know, who will fill your mind with like actual thoughts, compelling thoughts, right? You'll walk away from the vlog being like, wow, like I really can relate or understand, you know, something a bit differently from these, like from her just sharing her life or from them sharing their life, right? Like, you're doing too much for cardboard box character. And I think it's time to stop, because you're not invested in the person, right? At that point, you're invested in what you idealize. And we got to start shifting that focus to other things.
Yeah, I think you said everything exactly how it needed to be said. And you're right, like it's not your burden. It's not darker skinned women's burden. It's not women who has more textured hair. It's not their burden to sit here and educate people who have different, like less textured hair, less coarse hair, right? It's not their burden to educate women who have lighter skin or who are of a mixed or multiracial identity. Like somebody else's, one of the issues we have is that we make our privilege somebody else's burden. It already is other people's burden, right? In terms of experiences, in terms of the way that we navigate social locations, right? And just like you talked about money, it's not that this stuff doesn't have a material effect. People always want to be like, oh, you're too sensitive. No, it's not that. These things, it's just can be muddled down or reduced to emotions, right? There's material impacts. Not that emotions and psychological, like violence isn't a material impact, but physical violence, right? When we think about like kids in schools and teachers like cut off like kids' locks in schools, or they like cut off children's braids in schools, right? That's a physical form of violence that comes from not having a community that actively, like all of the time, unflinchingly supports, you know, Black women and darker skinned Black women and Black women with more textured hair, because we, you know, we allow for certain forms of violence, unfortunately, in our community to go unchecked. Like we're not as strong, we're not as united as we want to say that we are. We want to sit here and be like, Black Lives Matter, but we don't love dark-skinned Black women like we say that we do or that we need to. Black trans women. I mean, we talked about that last week.
Yeah, these comment section. I never had to delete so many ignorant thoughts. So many ignorant thoughts before. Like,
yes, and I'm like, did you all miss the whole you're uncomfortable in your own identity part? Because you're giving that right now in all these comments. But
it was sad.
No, I completely agree. Like it's only the only burden it belongs to is yourself, to educate yourself. And I know for me, like I'm not innocent when it comes to understanding colorism and texturism. I've had a lot of growth, you know, especially when I was younger. I had a period first where I was beginning to understand anti-Blackness, and Then I had a period where I was like, okay, you may get anti-blackness, but do you understand how that applies to yourself? And my sister really helped. She was a little bit older than me, so she kind of had those couple years always a step ahead in education. So she really helped me learn, more about us having mixed identity, being lighter skin. And we also don't look the same. Like my sister looks like she is mixed black and white. Mm-hmm. I get racially ambiguous in a lot of different situations. And that was also important too. Like, okay, I am responsible for understanding my own social location and how that impacts other people. And even when somebody chooses to go out of their way and bless me with this gift of education that I don't necessarily deserve, that doesn't mean that it just stops there.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. We need to do better at educating ourselves, supporting, because just like you said, there's people who are talking about it. And if people can sit here and relive their experiences, take time to talk about their own positionalities, the least that we should do is sit here and listen. That's the very minimum. The bar's on the ground for that.
Yeah.
So,
and go out of your way to be proactive and accountable and apologetic.
Yes.
About when you because no one's perfect. And I hope that no one takes from this episode, right, that these things aren't messy and that you won't make mistakes, or that, if you don't have the knowledge now, what do I do? I'm a bad person. No, I don't. It's not that simple. This is literally just a conversation, opening up a dialogue, which is a great segue into where you can further that dialogue. And I'll let Abby take that one away, because the entire premise of this episode series, this channel, is to promote conversation and for us to build and be better together through a very conscious community, not a perfect community, perhaps not even a woke community, right? But an accountable and conscious one. So if you want to further those conversations,
yes,
I don't know if I do this or this, but Abby can tell you where you can do such things.
Yes, y'all, please reach out to us leave comments on the YouTube channel, message us on the email. We have whole email, so please, y'all, message us on the email channel. We would love to, talk about other people, our own relationships to the topic. We want to continue the conversation. Comment on the Facebook post, comment on the Instagram page. There's plenty of ways for us ourselves, right, to engage in some dialogue. So please continue the conversation, reach out to us. And I think on that note, I want to plug that this conversation here is not done. So we are doing a 3-part series because there is a lot that we need to talk about, and we literally just dipped our toe into the water today. So y'all need to subscribe, okay? So you get the notification for next week's episode when it comes out. And I really want to say thank you, Jasmine, so much for blessing us with your time and presence. I always say and we're produced by the Debate Boutique Network. I'm so glad that, we can add the face of the show onto the show, or the producer onto the show. So thank you. And your insight, I genuinely really appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk about this with us.
Thank you so much. I'm happy. This makes my heart very full. There's so many more words, but I've said so many. But thank you. I'm so excited to be editing this video, but also just very appreciative to all of the really awesome work that you have done from episode 1 to now episode 6, which is wild. But it is not for the faint of heart. Not everyone can do it. I will exist on that hill if that is a take. And so you being someone who takes this on, who writes out these very detailed outlines for every episode, and who really brings a passion and voice to all these topics, and honestly F's the haters, because there's a lot of ignorance that exists. It takes a very special person. So I'm so appreciative to you, because without you, there is no TTNA. And it makes my Saturdays and Sunday nights very fun in order to put together these narratives from the liquid gold that you give me. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Whew, yeah. Okay, so I guess on this note, y'all, we can clearly see when it comes to the conversation of colorism, texturism, that there are a multitude of experiences and also a lot of different types of education that needs to happen. Not only self-education, but then clearly like community education, right? That needs to happen so that way when we engage in this conversation and also when we think about our actions or politics representation in other environments, we can understand how our own social locations can play a role in not only perpetuating these structures, but also we can then create space to challenge, right, these structures at the same time. So this is again why I think it was so amazing and necessary that we had multiple people right on this episode from different perspectives in life being able to talk about one, what was so wrong, so problematic about the dialogue that Briana Monique had during her episode, also the lack of justification or acknowledgement in her apology, right? Not justification, but the lack of acknowledgement in her apology and accountability, but also the ways that colorism, again, and texturism impacts us differently in the ways that when we have like lighter skin privilege or when you have certain textures of hair, it's important to educate yourself as to how your positionality can be used to promote anti-blackness and harm other black women within the community, because the only way we are going to get better is if we do a little bit more self-education, and also we are way stronger in numbers, right, y'all? So let's step it up, okay? Let's be more accountable, right? Let's do some more education. And on that note, right, I also want to point out, like, just like Jasmine's been talking about, it's not anybody's job to educate other people about how their positions can be used to perpetuate or uphold different types of beauty standards and forms of violence. It ain't the job of darker skinned black women to sit here and educate lighter skinned black women as to how they need to recognize their own social locations and what the heck is colorism and texturism. So do better. Be accountable. But again, I just want to say thank you so much to Jasmine for coming on the episode this week. Thank you so much to you all for tuning in. Conversation does not stop there, right? Continue to engage in the dialogue. Reach out to us on the YouTube channel. Reach out to us through email. Reach out to us on our Instagram page. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And as y'all see, we have a lot more to talk about. Am I right? So tune in next week for part 2 to this conversation. But I want to say thank you to Jasmine again so much for joining us today, for making this show possible. And on that note, y'all, I hope y'all have a great rest of your week. And don't forget to stay safe and stay healthy.